to see just how much of what we know about ourselves when we're feeling overwhelmed can actually just fly out the window. Kind of like how I feel with this interview.
Hello and welcome to Meet the Coach. I'm your host, Carla Egan, and today we're talking to a very experienced leadership and executive coach. She's had over 20 years experience in both the private and the public sector. She's seen the good and the bad in leadership, and she's been instrumental in organisational change in the places that she's worked at. Our guest today is Suzie Paceskoska from Space to Be. And she joins us from Victoria. Hi, Suzie. Welcome.
Hi, Carla. Good morning. It's wonderful to be here and with you today.
Yeah, it's great to connect with you. Now, I'd love to know some of those insights that you've gained over 20 years with the good and bad in leadership. But before we do that, I'd like you to share just a little bit about yourself and what your approach is to coaching.
So thanks, Carla. I'm usually on the other side of questions. And so I'm an executive leadership and organisational coach, having worked, as you noted, across the public and the private sector, not only as a coach but also as a leader prior to that, working across change management, leading teams across a number of different industries. And I thrive on watching people become the best that they can be and getting the most out of themselves and their careers, enjoying their professional life, which always obviously translates into their personal life as well.
I'm curious because leadership has shifted over that period of time, and the pressure on leaders to perform, to align their teams, to retain them, in fact, but whilst also developing themselves can be a challenge. So can you just share what some of the challenges or the problems that you've helped solve as a coach over this period of time?
Certainly. So one of the biggest challenges that I've experienced people coming across is really around having the clarity to work out what their priority is. So as leaders, we're inclined to take on responsibility for everything in our own mind and want to be everything to everyone. And of course, that's just such an unrealistic expectation of ourselves. So as a coach, one of the most prevalent starting points that people come to me with is around, I need to get control of my time. I feel like I'm constantly running on this treadmill. I don't have any clarity around how to get the best out of myself while also achieving results for the organisation and creating an environment where my people can thrive. So it's really a really powerful starting point to provide the space for people to stop and really think about what their priorities are in the first instance and how the actions that they're taking actually support those priorities.
You've touched on a pretty important one, which is time, because you do need to allocate time. You need to invest time developing yourself, and and that helps you develop your team, develop the organisation, develop your business. If you're a business owner, it all starts with developing yourself, and you do have to make time. That's one of the key priorities, and I love that. Also, pick up a point, being a leader, it doesn't mean you have to have a responsibility for a team, right? Anyone can step into a leadership role. So when you talk about coaching, Suzie, can you talk about who benefits from coaching in your experience, and how do they benefit from coaching?
Sure. So in terms of the who, coaching is of benefit to anyone who is willing to or who is interested in improving. And what that improvement looks like is different and varies from person to person. In my coaching, the focus is always on the individual and what they're wanting to achieve for themselves. You note that leaders actually don't have to be responsible for a team, and that's one of the really interesting things that people get caught up in from time to time, that, because I don't have a title, I'm not a leader. That actually anyone who is taking a stand, leading the way, providing support within an organisation, is actually able to take on an informal leadership role, and people don't actually need to forego being a leader if they choose not to actually take on a management responsibility. So some of the things that people have benefited from in the coaching is around increased clarity, improved time management, increased confidence, which is such a key issue for people. We can get so overwhelmed and caught up, and many of the people that I've worked with have that as their starting point, just a feeling of overwhelmment, to the point where their confidence has been eroded, and coaching is really proven to be beneficial for people to help them to identify what their strengths are, and to actually to be reminded of what their strengths are and how they can use those, all of the capabilities and the capacities that they had that brought them to the position that they're in, to actually use those moving forward. It's really fascinating to see just how much of what we know about ourselves when we're feeling overwhelmed can actually just fly out the window. Kind of like how I feel with this interview.
Well, yes, you normally do ask a lot of questions, don't you, as a coach? But yes, you're on the hot spot. You're in the hot seat. But you're doing a great job. And but I really like this topic because, I wish I had discovered coaching myself, earlier in my career, because, I took the approach that, it's one style fits all. And through coaching, I realized that you do need to be agile. You do need to adapt. And you do need to understand yourself in order to understand others. And I think that's one of the keys with leadership, and one of the benefits, this improved self-awareness. For those that are listening, Suzie, that are watching, our interview and listening on our podcast, in your experience, you've been around coaching for a while, before it was even a buzzword. Yeah. What's some of the misconceptions, the myths that are out there in coaching that you'd like to maybe set the record straight on?
Sure. So one of the biggest ones that I came up against quite frequently, in particular in the public sector, is a stigma around coaching, that coaching is for people who are poor performers. And coaching is put in place in lieu of or as a form of performance management. That's absolutely not the case. Certainly, coaching plays a role in helping people to identify gaps in performance and provide them with the opportunity to develop the capabilities, not only in terms of technical skills, but most importantly in terms of what's typically referred to as soft human skills, in particular around communication. And the other big one is that coaching is only for people at a certain point in their career or a certain level of seniority. And again, that's absolutely not the case in my experience. People at all levels of an organisation can and do benefit from coaching. And like you, I wish I'd had access to coaching myself earlier in my career, not just the actual mechanics of coaching, but even the permission, if you like, to reach out and not have to do all of the thinking or problem solving on my own.
poor performance, and that it is a stigma that you use it as a performance management tool, which is not the most effective use of coaching. And in fact, all successful people have a coach.
Yes.
So it's not just for poor performance, it's actually to enhance your performance. And the other thing that, you mentioned, the myth is about, coaching is reserved for the C-suite level. And that's no longer seen as a privilege. It's now part of almost most successful companies will have personal or professional development, and coaching is one of those strategies to maintain or to retain top talent and to ensure that you're enhancing their performance over time. So really good points that's probably shift the viewpoint of coaching over that time. So yeah, thanks for raising that, because I see that myself in coaching too. In terms of your experience in the private and public sector, Suzie, what are some of the other ways in which you support leaders and their organisations?
So in addition to coaching, one of the other areas that I am able to support people is through working with teams to identify how they're tracking as a team with a view to enhancing their performance. So one of the tools that I work with is the DISC model. So in addition to individual profiles, DISC profiles, which assist people to understand what their preferences are in terms of communication in the workplace. The other really tangible benefit that people walk away with having engaged with a DISC profile is that their awareness is expanded to understand that their way of communicating, their preferred style, isn't actually the only way that there is. So the mere fact of actually knowing that or becoming aware that there are other ways that people prefer to communicate, in my experience, has actually gone quite a long way to helping people to start to really stop and think about how they communicate and how they can modify their communication to enhance their relationships within the workplace.
I guess that tool is really all about leading yourself.
Absolutely.
And working with others, but leading yourself in order to have an effective team. And I've used the model myself. It was probably one of the underpinning light bulb moments that came with that tool. And I love that you use it as well, because I think everyone can benefit from a little bit of deeper analysis on their own communication style, their leadership style, their stress points, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Suzie, we talked about at the start that you have seen probably the good and the bad in leadership over your period of time. Are you prepared to share some of your insights with us here on this interview on what leaders can do, current leaders to do to enhance their impact that they're having in their organisation, in their career, and with their teams?
Yep, absolutely. So the one of the first things that is really, really important for leaders is to be clear in their own mind and then with their teams on what success looks like and what they will do to support individuals and the team to achieve that success. So really having clarity of vision and communicating that vision to the team is really important. It's also really important that leaders' words and behaviours align. There is a lot of confusion that can be caused and an undermining of results as well as confidence of individuals when what leaders express as desired behaviours or goals aren't actually backed up with the actions day to day, or prioritising of tasks day to day. And one really powerful thing for leaders is to be really clear about what behaviours they will reward, and or about rewarding behaviours that they would like to see within the team, and not tolerating and certainly not rewarding undesirable behaviours, regardless of who might be demonstrating those behaviours. That can have a really, really detrimental and undermining effect in terms of trust and in the leader, and confidence across the team, and that very often, if not always, leads to results being not as strong or optimal as what they could be. So that'd be my top three.
It reminds me of children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when parents are inconsistent,
Yes.
or that they can quickly see where they can undermine one parent over
Yes.
another, and of course you're going to get poor behaviour as a result of that. But it happens in the workplace too. So I'm glad you're calling it out. Suzie, you're a member of the coaching directory. So what does joining the directory mean for you and your business?
Yeah, so for me, the coaching directory really represents an opportunity to further broaden the visibility of my business, as well as to be a part of a platform which supports and promotes like-minded people. So people who are really passionate about the growth and development and transformation of individuals, and helping people to actually really get the most out of themselves and their careers, out of their lives. And for me, I think it does all start with ourselves, whether it's leadership or any other type of development or area of performance enhancement. It really does begin with ourselves, and taking the time to invest in our development, taking the time to understand what is important for us. And the coaching directory really brings together and is continuing to expand the number of coaches who share that same view of life, if you like.
Wonderful and well said, Suzie.
Thank you.
Now, this brings us to the end of this interview together with you. So thank you for joining us on Meet the Coach and sharing your journey and some of those insights, Suzie. It was lovely to reconnect with you and get to know more about you.
Thank you, Carla. It's been lovely to speak with you, and I look forward to chatting again sometime soon.
Terrific. And as always, thanks for watching and listening to our episode of Meet the Coach. If you enjoy our show, please rate and review us, and be sure to catch us in our next episode. This is Carla Egan from the Coaching Directory, where we connect you to your ideal coach.